Well, this little setup turned that session on Oakwood Parks on its absolute head. Unbelievable, really, just how changing to the worm hook baits in amongst the normal food we were putting out really did transform it. Everything was picking this up, and it is, I suppose, the secret squirrel method that's being used out there in the carp world quite a lot. A load of people have asked me, how do you set it up? So if you want to use the exact rig I was using and Bobby was using on the Grand Fishing Adventure, this is it. So to start with, before we get to the juicy part of putting the worms on, you need to take a size 2 Colm V. Okay, we were using the size 2s because there was a chance we were going to hook cats, big carp, all sorts could come along. And I just knew the size 2s were going to be resilient. They could, you know, get well hooked into a big cat's mouth as well as a big carp. So that was why the size 2s. You could use it with a 4, but I was using size 2s. So size 2 hook. Then get yourself about 12 inches of the blend 35-pound coated braid. I haven't stripped any of the coating off. So I've quite simply tied that on with a knotless knot, trimmed the tag end, then threaded on a bloodliner, a liner in large. That gives you that lovely little flash of red, nice angle coming out of the hook, perfect hook mechanics. Next up, you then take a micro ring swivel, put that onto the shank, followed by one of our long distance hook beads. They are so tight, they work amazingly well, and there we're just using a small long distance hook bead. So that's onto the shank, all positioned level with the barb or the point. It depends what you like. I like to have it somewhere in between. So you can see there, look, just there positioned, it's sitting basically, the micro ring swivel sitting just level with the middle of the point basically. Then gets the juicy bit. This is the hard bit. This is the bit that takes a little bit of practice, but it really is worth it. So you've got to get a really small bait band, the smallest ones you can get. I'm using the Guru ones here, the small bait bands. And then you're taking a splicing needle or a really fine needle and you're pushing it through the eye of the micro ring swivel, all right? So you're not going through the ring, you're going through one of the eyes of the little swivel. So it's quite fiddly. Take it through, and then what you're trying to do, hook on the bait band, and you're going to pull the bait band through. So at that stage, once you've pulled it through, you've got it halfway along. So you've got a little loop sticking out one side, and a little loop sticking out the other. Then you take your splicing needle and you loop to loop it together. So you've now loop to looped it onto the eye of the swivel. Then what you do is you get yourself about 5 mil of rig foam. So here, this is just, it's red, it could be black, it could be brown, doesn't really matter. And it's not really to give great buoyancy to the hook bait or anything, it's actually to help grip the worms when you slide them on in a minute. So you pull them, you pull the foam basically like you would a boilie onto a hair, but this time you're using the elastic of the bait band. So you're just pulling that onto there, pulling it onto the barrel of the swivel and pulling it down nice and tight on there so it's out of the way for threading on your worms. Now comes the fun part, threading on the worms, all right? So you take your splicing needle, pull the loop of the bait band out, and just by forming a little hole, you push your first few worms on. Thread one on, then another, and then eventually what you can do is put the lead or the hook link between your legs so you're able to pull it tight, and then you're able to pull the other way with the bait band to form a bigger hole, and you're just pulling them on one after another. And really there is no limit. You could go up to 50 worms if you wanted. The more you get in there, the more the bait band's going to grip, and it's going to be in a lovely position. And then what you do at the very end, you take the foam. Once you've got enough worms on that you're happy, you can hear, for this demonstration, we've actually got quite medium-sized dendrobinas from Willie's worms, but normally I'd use the big dendrobinas and lob worms, okay? Once I've threaded them on, I basically take that little bit of rig foam and I pull it so it crimps onto that elastic also of the bait band, pulls it nice and tight, and then finally just take a pair of scissors and just trim a couple of the worms, and that gets the aminos and the juices coming out. So it's a lovely, you know, lovely concoction. It's so attractive. Honestly, nothing can swim over this without having a go. And that presentation is perfect. So to finish that lovely lot up, all you've got to do is take a pin leg clip. That's what we were using, just a nice leg clip system. It's got size 8 Vitabits QC swivel in there. And then all I've done is tied the blend coated braid with a 50mm anti-tangle sleeve to really help those worms kick away if they do get pestered by little fish underwater. Tie it on with a 5-turn grinner knot. Wet it, pull it down, form a beautiful knot. Pull the anti-tangle sleeve, which, as I said, is the 50mm blend anti-tangle sleeve, tungsten version. And then finally, a little blob of the amazing blend putty. No sinker underneath that. It sticks on like to a blanket, and yeah, just mould it around there. Nice little blob. Honestly, this is a pretty deadly setup. So if you've never used it, you will find out the good way.